Hello everyone, it's Joel Davis with the United Medical Transportation Providers Group. As always, I thank you and appreciate all of your emails. You guys have sent some awesome emails, and especially since announcing the Orlando Roundtable Gathering this past week, we've had a lot of emails. So realistically, I don't even think we're going to have to do a formal public launch. Realistically, next week we might just do a private exclusive launch, a pre-launch, and scoop up all our reservations and go with that. So we'll see how that turns out. What I also want to note, because of some of your emails, for those of you who've already made your reservations for the March Motown Madness, which sold out in 4 days because you guys are awesome. For those of you who've already made your reservations, and also for those of you who will be attending the Orlando event, if you're a newbie and you're just getting in, or if you have not studied my previous DVD series, How to Build $1 Million NEMT Business, and the NEMT valuation process, those two series come together as a package set. If you have reserved your seat and you haven't reviewed those, shoot us an email. Send an email to Emilia, Emilar Daniels at yahoo.com. She's my personal assistant. We'll get you a copy of that, because I definitely want you to watch those before you attend either the March Motown Madness or the Orlando Roundtable Gathering. So, again, thank you all for your emails. Got a ton of them. Great. I want to share one that's rather unique, but I'm sharing this one because I really want to share perspective with you. I want to share perspective with you. This is critical. Now, a lot of times when I get emails, I'm going to be honest with you, I've worked with so many people, and again, I'm flattered and honored to work with all of you, but you could see patterns. There's no question. The more people you work with, you see patterns developing. It gets even easier because you can further and better advise people what to do, what not to do. You've seen this before. You've learned this. You've picked this up here. I mean, it's the toolbox analogy I always use. The more tools you can put in that toolbox, the more versatile you are. And in working with more people, talking to more people, helping more people, you're adding to that toolbox. And you see patterns. So let me read this email to you, because I'm going to break it down to really give you overall perspective of this industry and your opportunity. This is from Chris. He writes, Joel, I have an opportunity to develop a NEMT business with some pretty large investors. I would like to use your program. However, my investors insist on building the business with a fleet of vehicles. We have an opportunity to gain all the transport business for a single health system, hundreds of thousands of clinics, hospital visits each year. What direction do you think I should go? Any help from one of your team members would be great. Thanks in advance, Chris. Chris, good question. I don't know anything about you other than what you presented me with here in this email, so take all that and keep it in proper context. First thing I would tell you is where you say I have an opportunity to develop an NEMT business with some pretty large investors. First thing I'm going to tell you, I don't have enough fingers or toes multiplied. I'll add it up together and then multiply by 4 to share with you how many times I've seen a similar email like this. It's almost like people are so desperate. And again, I only know from what you shared in your email, so keep that proper perspective here. People are so motivated, so desperate to move forward with their business, any business, not just NEMT. They'll take on equity partners to get that quick insurgence of cash. But then when you do that, understand, someone else owns equity in your business. So just off your first sentence, the first thing you have to ask yourself, again, you write, I have an opportunity to develop an NEMT business with some pretty large investors. The first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you want to own or be owned? Bottom line. Now, trust me, if you were some large, magnanimous corporation and we're investing stocks, and that's a whole different animal. But for relatively speaking, you're a small business. So do you want to own or be owned? It's a binary choice at this point in time. Do you want to own or be owned? And let's say these investors, let's say you only give up 30%, 40%. I don't know. I mean, what did you talk to with these investors? How much money? I have seen so many situations of investors, and the waters quickly become murky and clouded because, keep things in perspective, this is a small business. So with that being said, it's if we were dealing with large volumes of business, tens of millions of dollars, then it's much more palatable to bring on large investors, and you're splitting that pie. Everyone's still making a lot of money. But especially in the early stages of the business where the business really isn't turning a profit and you're investing, you're digging that ditch, you're building it, you're bootstrapping it, that pie of profitability is going to be much smaller. And what are those expectations of those investors? I don't know. Again, I'm just reading your maybe 4 or 5 sentence paragraph here. So again, take all that for what it's worth and keep it in proper context. And again, I don't know what type of guarantee that these large investors have that guarantees you're going to get all this work. Are you going to sign up with them? You're going to be the owner-operator of how big is the fleet? Is it 5 vehicles, 10 vehicles, 20 vehicles, 40 vehicles? I don't know. Again, I'm just speculating off what you wrote here. So are you going to manage this all? Are you the owner of the entire fleet? You own it all, and they're silent investors? There's so much to discuss and to drill down in here. And my biggest concern also, honestly, is too good to be true pie in the sky. So first and foremost, just reading your 3 or 4 sentence paragraph here, my first question you got to ask yourself is, do you want to own or be owned? They're two totally different dynamics. If you own the business, do you own 51% or more? Are you the baller shot caller calling all the shots? Are they just a silent partner? Do they have any leadership interest? Do they have any type of managerial interest or abilities or capabilities? These are all things that need to be explored and questions you definitely need to ask. And then the hundreds of thousands and hospital visits each year, this and that. I'm just going to be honest with you. Sometimes if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, especially for a startup. We're going to guarantee you hundreds of thousands of trips a year. What? I mean, show me on paper, show me the guarantee, and I'll sign as long as it's all kosher and legit. That's okay. But right now, if we're just throwing out conversations, it's like it's of no utility to you. So sounds too good to be true. I'm just going to be honest with you. But the bigger issue I'm going to default to, and I've already mentioned a few times, is do you want to own or be owned? That's the binary choice. All right. So and think about that. And this is a big thing. I'm big about selling the business for a future profit. Selling the business for a future profit. What's the exit strategy? If you bring on investors, who's in control when it comes time to sell? What if you want to sell and they don't want to sell? What if it actually is? Here's this great scenario, I've seen this before. What if it actually is a good earner, and you want to sell the business, but you have investors, they don't want you to sell the business. They don't want that gravy train to stop, but you want to sell. Quagmire, that is a serious legal issue that could quickly escalate in this big money that only the attorneys are going to win. Because again, keep things in perspective. Let's say this business is a moneymaker and you want to sell the business. It's time for you to move on to the next chapter of your life. You want to cash out with all the bank. But the investors don't want that gravy train to stop. They don't want it to end. Then there is a problem. So do you want to own or be owned? And if you're being owned, how much control do you really have? So these are all questions you need to ask. And again, you got to drill down. There are so many things to consider before you even make a choice. Again, I get the overall concept of your email, but really you sent me 3 or 4 sentences, so I really can't go much further than what you sent me. But I want to share proper perspective, because this is even bigger than your question, but your question kind of served as the impetus for me to share this. I want you to keep things in proper perspective. Now, I've been accused before of, all I care about is money, and I tell them to only focus on the money. That's actually not true. In some of my other videos, I've shared stories about how, and I openly admit, fully transparent, when I was starting my NEMT business, 100% I was all about the money. All I did was I saw the opportunity, the growth of the elderly population, wanted to make money, et cetera, et cetera. But then once you get involved and you're actually helping and you're transporting people, you cannot help but see the humanity of it, and you're legitimately helping people. Then I realized, you know what, God had me here for a reason. He needed to humble me. He needed to change my perspective. There's no question. But with that being said, you still have a responsibility to God, to family, to your spouse, to your kids, to your posterity, to make money. You have a responsibility to the people you're helping to make money, because if you don't make money, guess what? You're not going to be in business. Here's what I want you to keep in perspective. And I'll put it to you like this. I was in the position where I was sitting down. I was going to buy out one of my competitors, and he threw out his price. It was actually his father. His father owned the business at the time. He threw out a large number, and he said, "Does this scare you?" And I said, "No, it doesn't scare me. All we have to fear is fear itself, and those numbers don't scare me." And I said, "But I'm not going to pay it. I most certainly am not going to pay that, because I knew at that point in time, I already had him on the ropes, and he was about to go out of business. So anything I give him at that point in time is a lifeline. So I certainly wasn't going to pay his top dollar." So I held and I waited several months go by, and then the son approaches me. It was a father and son who owned the business. The son approached me and said, "Hey, got a great deal. Are you ready to buy?" "All right, well, let's sit down and talk." Throws down the reduced number I was waiting for. And he said, "How do you feel about this?" I said, "Oh, we can move forward with this." And in our conversation, as I was explaining to him, he asked, "Well, why did you wait so long? Why didn't I take his father's offer and all that kind of good stuff?" And I explained to him, I said, "Listen, here's the deal. All I had to do was wait for you to go out of business. If you go out of business, it's because your father gave me this elevated price," and I get it. He wanted to pay out. He was emotionally connected to the business. He started it from day one. He started it himself. I get all that. But as I explained to the son, if you wait and go out of business, understand what I'm saying here. Keep things in perspective. There's going to be no clamoring in the streets. There's going to be no outpouring in the streets. Let's say the name of your company. I'm not going to say the name of that company. But let's say the name of the company is ABC Transportation. If I wait and you go out of business and ABC Transportation goes out of business, do you think there's going to be an outpouring of the streets and people are going to cry and they're going to be wailing in the streets? "No, please bring back ABC Transportation." No, it's not going to happen. People do not care. Sure, there may be some great relationships you have with staff, some specific clients. Sure, they're going to miss you. They're going to regret it. But guess what? Life goes on. Life goes on. What's the point of this diatribe? This is why ultimately, of course, I want you to be the best. If you're in the medical transportation business, I want you to be the best medical transportation provider you could be. Home care, be the best home care agency you could be. Courier, be the best courier. Broker, be the best, whatever you're doing. Making widgets, selling widgets, be the best you could be. At the end of the day, in putting things in proper perspective, you have got to be about the top line and the bottom line. You've got to be about the top line and the bottom line. More specifically, you have got to be about making money. Number one. Number two, after you make the money, you've got to be about multiplying the money. This is why I talk about building wealth. I get it. Everyone throws out the word building wealth. Online, there's the online scams all over the place. Drop ship that. Quick get rich quick scheme here. Go to your mailbox, collect your checks. All that. I get all that. It's all crap. It's all horse. SHIT. Again, I don't cuss. I just spell very slowly. So anyways, it's all crap. Make the money, build the wealth. I'm about building wealth. That's why I am totally agnostic to, do you do it through NEMT? Do you do it through home care? Do you do it through your broker? Any other business? I don't care. You've got to be to keep things in proper perspective. Your end game has got to be about building wealth. Because once you have your pot of gold that you generated off your businesses, you leverage that money so your money is making you money, and you're completely agnostic to what the quote-unquote vehicle is in which you're making that money. Now understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying you ever do anything unscrupulous. You engage in any businesses or activities that are less than honest. I want you to have purpose. I want you to have passion, all those things. But again, let's go back to the ABC Transportation business. If something happens with your business, if you go out of business, you mismanage it, God forbid there's a lawsuit, you get, or foreclosure or any type of deal, bankruptcy, whatever. Do you think that people there's going to be an outpouring and just wailing in the streets to bring back ABC Transportation, bring back ABC Home Care Service? There's not. There's not going to be, and I know this upsets people because you're so emotionally attached to your business, but it's the reality of the situation. People ask me, well, Joel, why don't you do those conventions anymore? I've been to conventions. those conventions, they're back slappers. You got your breakout sessions, your power groups, vendors. Everyone's trying to sell everything. Everyone wants you to buy their new vehicles. Everyone wants you to buy the best technology and software. And trust me, I love it. I'm all for all that. But they want you to buy it when you can't even afford it. How does that help you, the motivated small business owner or even medium-sized business owner? Everything, not some, everything comes back to top line, bottom line, that's it. How much money are you making to build your pot so you can leverage the heck out of that pot to build wealth? When you build wealth, you've extracted your emotional connection, your liability, your responsibility to the actual business endeavors. You ever notice how many large wealthy people, I know there's some people who take different perspectives. Some people say do one thing and do it exceptionally well, and there's some truth to that. There's great validity to that. That's awesome. But now let's duplicate it now. If I'm good at this, I'm sure I could be good at this over here too. Let's duplicate it. That's why I'm against being one-dimensional. Everyone likes to pigeonhole me and put me in with the medical transportation industry. That's great. I love the industry. I love being involved in it. I love helping so many people. That's awesome. But guess what? God made me a lot more than one-dimensional NEMT guru, as many people refer to me as. Again, I appreciate it. I'm complimented. I'm flattered, humbled, honored, etc. But I'm much more than one-dimensional. And guess what? So are you. So are you. And yes, you could do more than one thing at one time. Let's go back to the origin of this original question from Chris. Do you want to own or be owned? At the end of the day, I don't want you to just own. I want you to build, grow, multiply. That's what we are called to do. That's biblical. That's biblical. You have a responsibility and obligation to do it to God, to your spouse, to your children. Notice, hey, I'm an older guy, but I got younger kids. My daughter's going to be 4. My son's about to be 2. I very much think about my posterity and what I'm going to be leaving to my kids, and I still have a long way to go. But guess what? I'm sure you, for those of you watching this, you'll attest that once you have kids, things change, perspective change. No question. No question. Totally agree. Now listen, I know I've gone off on a long diatribe off a simple question from Chris. Chris, again, appreciate the great question. Appreciate all your great questions. But I want you to keep things in proper perspective. You're going to love your business. You're going to be emotionally attached to your business. It's your boo. You started it from ground zero. You bootstrapped it. It was nothing more than an idea. You literally put it into motion. You built it. And this is something you absolutely have to practice. And it's hard. I get it. But you have to emotionally detach yourself from your business. This is why I always, not sometimes, I always tell people, you make your decisions on the margin. Everything comes down to your numbers. You let your numbers dictate when and how you act. When you do that, it becomes even more agnostic. You're not as emotionally attached. It makes it even more easy to exit and sell your business for a larger profit. There's no question. And don't get me wrong, even after selling my business, you miss people, you miss the relationships, you miss certain aspects of it. No question. Employees, staff, clients, you do. But life goes on. If you don't manage your business properly, you go out of business, you go bankrupt, I promise you, there's not going to be wheeling in the streets. The sun's still going to come up tomorrow. No one's going to care. Joel, how could you say such a mean, cruel, and sensitive thing? No one's going to care. I'm just going to be honest with you. When you go to those conventions and everyone's backslapping, you break out in your power groups, everyone's trying to sell you the new vehicle and the new stretcher, the new this and the new that, and all this, the high price stuff, things that I do not espouse to and do not teach in my coaching programs. When you go do all that, how does it affect the top line, bottom line? Those retailers, those vendors at all the backslapping conventions, if you go out of business, are they going to be wheeling in the streets for you? Are they going to be calling, no, please, please, bring back ABC Transportation? They're not going to care. They're not going to care. Trust me, all the conventions and the backslappers, they don't care. Doesn't matter. That's why only you have got to be about your business. Your top line, your bottom line. Again, I'll apologize once again, as per usual. It's very easy for me to go off on a tangent. Oh, trust me. I could take this off another 2 or 3 hours. Trust me, there's a lot more we could do. But so, some people have already checked out, and I've already been long-winded enough. So I'll cut it off here. So for those of you who stayed to the very end, kudos to you. I love you, and I love working with you. For those of you who I'm going to see in Detroit at the March Motown Madness, love you. Look forward to seeing you. For those of you who I'm going to see in Orlando, like it, love it. We'll see you soon. Look, here's the deal. At the end of the day, when I'm working with you and I see you, I'm only going to see you in one place, and that's at the top.